शुरू हो जाओ भाई. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ba'd. We're continuing with the signs before the Day of Judgment. And we're still on the minor signs. From amongst the signs that we've covered plenty, alhamdulillah. But soon we'll be reaching an end of the minor signs and then going and moving on to the major signs, inshallah ta'ala, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. As for some further minor signs, then Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala narrated that Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, يكون قوما يخدبون في آخر الزمان بسواد كهواسل الحمام لا يريحون رائحة الجنة. That towards the end of times, there will be some people who will color their white hair with black. So they will make white hair and dye it black. And the color of the hair will be similar to the color that you will find on the feathers of a pigeon. These people will not smell the fragrance of Al-Jannah. And of course, this is a sign which has already happened. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has strictly forbid the people from the white hair appears to put dye on it which is black. Why do you think that is? Yes, it's a form of deception. That you're going to deceive the people of your age. And of course, deception is not from the way and the sunnah of Rasulullah or any of the Anbiya that came before. Deception is not allowed by your speech, nor by actions. It's not that you just don't deceive someone through your speech. But similarly, we don't deceive people through our actions also. So this is a form of deception. This is how beautiful Islam is. That it came to preserve the rights of each other and the honor of each other that we have amongst ourselves. That you're violating possibly the honor of your fellow brother or sister by giving them the impression that you have something that you don't, or you're something that you're not. And of course, I've mentioned previously that another form of deception that takes place and it's quite rife in our society, is the deception of people passing themselves off as scholars or people of knowledge, yet they are not worthy of that title. And we've covered it extensively. They therefore misguide themselves. فَأَفْتَوْا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ ضَلُّوا فَأَضَلُّوا. They misguide themselves and they misguide others through that. So this is another form of deception. White hair, colored black. Of course, we know that the sunnah is that you can color hair which is white, and you can put the henna on there, so long as it's not black. And of course, there's other restrictions also. You don't want to have a beard which is pink or acid green. مَنْ تَشَبَّهَ بِقَوْمٍ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ. That of course also applies. But the point here is that to put the henna so that the beard or the hair looks respectable, there's no harm in this. And in fact, the father of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, Abu Quhafa, upon the conquest of Mecca, was brought before the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and his hair was completely white. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, color this hair, yani change the color of this hair with the henna, but don't make it black. Don't make it black. So from amongst the signs of the time is that deception will be at such a level that people will deceive even the person right in front of them through their very appearance. And do we not see that today? They have a saying, don't they? Not everything that glitters is gold. And of course that's true, that we tend to go towards things which interest us or which our desires want us to follow. And of course the Dajjal, when he comes, he will be a deceiver. Deception. Look here at this garden, Jannah, but yet it's a furnace of the fire of hell. Look here, your parents, they are calling to you, they are asking you to come and follow me, but yet there'll be shayateen. So this deception is something that will build up, so much so that deception will be something which is widespread and normal. Thus Dajjal will be able to fool a great multitude of people, mostly women. Mostly women. And there's a tafsil and an explanation and a detail to that, which bi'idhnillahi ta'ala will hope to cover when we come to the issue of the emergence of Dajjal. But the point here is deception will be on an individual basis. And we know through other narrations, Allama Albani rahmatullah alayhi has authenticated them, as well as other muhaddithun, where the white hair which one has on the day of judgment before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the white hair of the believer will shine like a lamp, like a light before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no harm also. And what do we do in see that white hair or them white hairs? We say to the barber, can you find the white hairs and just take them out? Because this is vanity. Man is vain. He has these desires. He wants to stay young forever. He wants to live forever. And of course, this was the deception that Iblis perpetrated on Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, or he tried to give him this impression. Eat from that tree and it's the tree of eternal life. This is deception. And great kingdoms will be yours. Ownership and eternal living, luxury. So deception is something that started right from them. And we have the people deceiving today also. So even on an individual basis, our Prophet ﷺ has told us to be extremely careful in being a part of that general deception, of that wider deception. Don't deceive the people through making your beards go black, and then you're passing yourself off, she's passing herself off as someone who's 20 yet they're 50. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. Likewise, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, from the signs of the Day of Judgment are Bayna yadi sa'a, for the coming of the time, Kata al-arham. Tuqta'ul arham in another narration. That the relationships and ties of kinship will be broken. And in other words, close relationships, they'll be severed. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he came with the blessed message of Tawheed, he gave the message, he delivered the message, and those that were close to him, from amongst them Abu Lahab, he decided to sever the ties there and then. Tabbat yadaka ya Muhammad, we know that. Tabbat yada Abi Lahab wa tab. Severing ties is generally based on two types. In other words, making a hajar, splitting yourself away from, keeping yourself away from people, or cutting the ties with certain individuals. One type is permissible and the other type is impermissible. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quran and the Sunnah, they've given us guidelines concerning that. And the Salaf have written concerning this. Which type is permissible? Broadly speaking, the cutting of ties that you perform in order to safeguard your deen, in order to stay away from the evil, the shar, in order to stay away from wretchedness and wickedness, in order that you're not associated with dhulm, oppression, and ma'siyah, sinning, in order so that you're not associated or a part of the munkar, that which is forbidden, that which is evil. This is all permissible. Even if you have to do that from your own father. And of course, there's a mannerism attached to the way that that is done also. And we learn this from the Quran, do we not? When Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam gave da'wah to his father and his people of the tribe, continued to give them da'wah, and he got to the stage where he said what? I'm free from that which you worship, and I'm free from you. I'm free from you and that which you worship. He didn't only free himself from the idols, but he freed himself from the people who were upon that idol worship. So the Quran is teaching us this principle, that the evil of shirk and bid'ah and kufr, wretchedness, darkness, that which opposes Iman and Islam and Ihsan and good manners, if it's something that has the potential of harming you, affecting you, or if someone is giving you da'wah of shirk, bid'ah, kufr, they're giving you da'wah, they're preaching to you evil, wretchedness, then stay away from that individual. That will not be called breaking the ties. That will be called preserving your deen. And that's a greater obligation. The scholars of Islam have a principle, Darul Mafasid min Jalb al-Masalih, to repel the evil, to repel the harm, to stay away from the harm, to clarify what's haram and what's the harm, is greater than to do that which is good. So it's the repelling of the harm which is of a greater significance. What about when the harm is attacking your deen, or it has a potential to affect your deen? And of course, it's not only entirely limited to the deen, it's someone that may harm you in the dunya also, who may have harmed you previously and they've not changed. There's no sin upon that person to stay away from that person. It's self-preservation. And likewise, we know from the story of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. Innahu min ahlik, innahu laysa min ahlik. He's from my family. No, he's not from your family. Oh no. So, here we have a father who wants to keep that tie of relationship, that tie of kinship. But the one that he wants to keep it with, he is upon evil. He is upon disobedience and kufr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, stay away from him. You have to cut off from him. He's not your family. So, to preserve your deen and your honor in the deen or the dunya, it's permissible to make hajr and to stay away from that individual. Of course, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what if my parents are upon disbelief? It doesn't stop you being amicable with them. It doesn't stop you reaching out to them, taking care of them, being kind to them. This is something which is entirely different, and which remains an obligation upon the child. It doesn't stop you being amicable with your uncles, your aunties. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was never, didn't seek to harm Abu Lahab in any way like that, or those that opposed him from his relatives. Only when they stood as enemies before Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they made that enmity open and apparent. Then there's the hajr, or the keeping away, which is impermissible. You fall out over the affairs of the dunya, and you take an oath that I'm never going to speak to you, or it's something which is minor, and you make it into the size of the Mount of Uhud. Or someone may have committed a sin, for example, and you are now going around saying to everybody, firstly, you're exposing that person's sin, yet his sin is a sin of private. It's not a sin which has been done publicly or affects the public. It's a private sin. But yet you go and you tell people about it, and you expose that person, and then not only that, you invite the people in the strongest terms, stay away from that person, he is a sinner, he is a bad person. This type of disassociation is something which is not permissible. You have relatives that are kind to you, you have family members that are kind to you, that don't affect your deen adversely, but yet you don't give them the due rights. This is impermissible. And we know from an authentic hadith that on the Day of Judgement, and after the reckoning has been done before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the womb shall plead before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the one, Ya Rabb, who kept that relation with me in the dunya, that gave me the rights that I was deserving of with my fellow people, today keep your contact and keep your mercy upon that person. And the one who cut and severed the ties, this is the womb speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, today cut your ties with that individual. This is for the one who cuts the ties of relationship unjustly, without just cause. So from amongst the sign of the Day of Judgment is that the ties of relationship and kinship and closeness will be cut without justification. That's what it means, without just cause. Do we not see that happening today? You have relatives that, instead of making the people come together and join together, their entire mission seems to be to split the people. And the one who seeks to split the people unjustly is the one upon the path of shaitan. The one who seeks to split the people unjustly without just cause, he is upon the way of shaitan. And the one who seeks to bring the people closer together in order to benefit the people, in order to rectify the affairs, in order so that the people's Iman and Islam can become stronger and better, then this is a person who is upon the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. But the obligation shall remain up until the day of judgment to keep the distance and the distinction, the tamyiz between Ahlul Sunnah and Ahlul Bid'ah. To keep that distance between Ahlul Shirk and Ahlul Tawheed. So that that difference is absolutely clear, that distinction is absolutely clear. And of course, this is the way of the victorious group. لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق. The day will not be established except that there will remain a victorious group, the group upon the truth in my ummah, and they will manifest upon the truth. And if that means shunning even those that are close to them, and severing the ties for the sake of Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the sake of Islam, then they will do that. May Allah make us from amongst those that are part of the victorious group. Likewise, from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrates, لا تقوم الساعة حتى تسترب آليات النساء دوس على ذي الخلسة وذو الخلسة طاغية دوس التي كانوا يعبدون في الجاهلية. The day will not be established up until the tribe of Dos and the women of that tribe don't go to circumambulate and worship Dhul Khulsa, the idol. Dhul Khulsa, the idol, and they go and they worship that idol again. And that idol was the idol of that tribe, of the tribe of Dos, that they used to worship in the times of Jahiliyyah, meaning the times before the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came and announced his prophethood. This is a stark warning in this hadith, that the level of shirk in the ummah of Muhammadur Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will reach such a level that people will actually go back to the idols and remake the idols which the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his Sahaba had once broken and destroyed. And they will go and they will circumambulate and worship that idol once again. You couldn't imagine this, that in the name of Islam, such actions will be done. These are people that will profess Islam, by the way, that will claim Islam for themselves. These are people who will say La ilaha illallah, but yet these are the actions that they will fall into. And the scholars have a principle. Someone crying. Oh dear, dear Allah, have mercy on us all. So, the tribe of Dos is a tribe from the people of Yemen, and Jarir bin Abdullah al-Bajali is the one who destroyed it. And then ignorance came and the people rebuilt this idol and they began to worship it. And they began to circumambulate it. This has happened, by the way. And then the authorities, they excavated the entire site from existence, literally. From its very roots, they just excavated the entire site where this idol worship was taking place. لا تقوم الساعة حتى تلحق قبائل من أمتي بالمشركين وتتعود قبائل من أمتي الأوثان. that the day will not be established up until groups of my ummah, parts of my ummah, they don't join with the idol worshippers, the mushrikeen, and a group of them don't join with those that are actually worshipping these idols, meaning in their worship. Today when we say to people, this is shirk, stay away from it. This is shirk, this is kufr, stay away from that. The reply and the response that we get is that we're not seeking help from an idol, we're seeking help from a pious person. Meaning today's mushrik seems to restrict shirk to idol worship. But then there's this super type of mushrik who won't even see a problem with the actual worship of the idol itself. Of course, shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through any of the makhluk, regardless of whether it's an idol, a tree, a living thing, a prophet, a martyr, a pious person, or someone who is other than that. The star, the moon. Whatever is before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and join as partners with Him, given a share of His dhat, His essence, His sifat, His attributes, given a share or an ownership or some kind of claim over His af'al, His actions, the actions which are restricted only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all of this falls under shirk. So this time is a time which has occurred already. And we see in our countries today again. The scholars of hadith have explained that it doesn't just mean that it will just be that one idol that will be worshipped. No, it means that idol worship will be something which will come back into the people. It means idol worship is something that will come back into the ummah. There's a brother that I was speaking to a year and a half ago, just speaking about Islam generally, and he's a Muslim, alhamdulillah. And he came onto the path of Quran, Sunnah, the way of the Salaf, alhamdulillah. And he narrated to me, he said one day, he went from his bedroom upstairs and he came downstairs and he saw his mother. She had in front of her the picture with a few candles of Guru Nanak, is it, the Sikh, that picture with the man with the white beard, and she was prostrating in front of it. When this individual told me this, I shook to my very core, Ya Rab, these are Muslims. He said he went to his mother and he said, Mom, what are you doing? And she said that my Peer Sahib or whoever it was, he told me to do this and then from that I will get blessing. And she was actually had a temple within her house, Muslim, in the name of Islam. Directing your worship to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to worship that thing. Directing your worship to other than Allah is to worship other than Allah. And it tantamounts and it comes exactly down to the same thing. So this will be rife, and it's rife right now. No matter how many times the mushrikeen try to fool the people and they say that the Prophet has informed us that I'm not fearful of my falling into shirk. You remember we did a full feature lecture on this topic a few months ago. An explanation of the hadith which mentioned but the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm not fearful for my ummah to fall into shirk. How do we reconcile that with narrations like this? So the ultimate sin, the people will be so corrupt and so bad. Shirk will be something which will be widespread. And of course, as time goes on, it will become worse. And this is why When the day of judgment is established, the Rasulullah informed us that it will be established upon the worst of people. The worst of people, it will be established upon them. So, this is something that we see around us in the society at all times. And this is why there must be a concerted effort also to combat shirk. Because it is the main cause upon which the people will be taking themselves towards the fire of hell. And of course, the aim of the Dajjal and those that are the agents of Dajjal is none other than this. Many a people have been destroyed who were upon the deen by the whisperings of shaitan and by them turning away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards shirk. So shirk is something that will become widespread. Therefore, to fight against shirk and to have the pristine aqidah of Tawheed and to know about Tawheed and to know about shirk so we can stay away from it is an even greater obligation as time goes on. It is something that is so vital, so important. And of course, it's the reason for our existence. We should never forget this. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Man and jinn are there so that they are those that worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يذهب الليل والنهار حتى تؤبد اللات والعزى. The day and night will not come to an end, the Prophet informed us, except that Lat and Uzza, these two idols of Jahiliyyah, will once again be worshipped. Lat and Uzza will make a return. So the message of the Prophet ﷺ will become something which will be strange. And of course, Islam began as something strange for the people, and it will return as that which will be seen as a strangeness and glad tidings for those that will be upon that strangeness or who are the strangers. So these are things that we have to take into context and understand. Similarly, from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment, as narrated by Asma bint Abi Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she relates that the Rasul said, أَنَا عَلَى هَوْذِي أَنْتَظِرُ مَنْ يَرْدِي عَلَيَّ فَيُؤْخَذُ بِنَاسٍ مِّن دُونِي فَأَقُولُ أُمَّتِي فَيُقَالُ لَا تَدْرِي مَا شَعَلَ الْقَهْكَارَ قال ابن مليك اللهم إنا نعوذ بك أن نرجع على عقابنا أو نفتنا. The Rasul ﷺ informs us that on the Day of Judgment he'll be standing at his pool, at the Hawd, waiting for his ummah, waiting for the people to come upon him. Yet there'll be many that will want to come closer to the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, and they'll be stopped in their tracks. And the Prophet of Allah ﷺ will say, my ummah, this is my ummah. And the reply that will be given will be that you don't know, O Muhammad ﷺ, you do not know what these people, they done after you. You do not know what they done after you. They turned away from your religion. Ibn Abi Mulaika narrates that when he narrated this hadith, he would make the dua, O Allah, we seek refuge from turning away from the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or being involved in a fitna which leads us to that. So bid'ah, from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment, is that bid'ah will also become something which is quite rife and prevalent. And it will be seen as something which is pretty normal in society. لا تدري ما أحدثوا بعدك. In another narration, you don't know what they invented after you, what innovations they done after you. And of course, I don't need to spend any further time on the bid'ahs that we are surrounded by today. And in the era of the companions after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how certain sects emerged, whether it was those that denied the Quran being the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jabir bin Safwan, 124, Ja'd bin Dirham, 128, around these times, executed for the kufr which they had. Whether it was those that came later and began to introduce philosophy into the deen, those that were around in the era towards the end of the Khulafa Rashidin's era, the Khawarij, then the Shia, then those that came slightly after the Rafida, those that split away, the Mu'tazila, the Jahmiyyah, the Qadariyya, the Jabariyya, all of these groups. And then in later times, what we see many people claiming to be today, the Ash'ariyya. It's worth knowing at least a line or two just about the recognition or the strap line, if you want to call it, of what these groups are about. For example, the Ash'ariyya are those people that play with the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they explain them in a way that the Salaf did not. The Jahmiyyah are those that deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above the throne, above the seven heavens. These are things we should know. Why? So we can stay away from them. So that was then. What about today? If you are upon the Sunnah, you are seen as somebody who is upon Bid'ah. And if you're upon Bid'ah, you are seen as someone who's absolutely in sync with the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I was with someone yesterday. One of my relatives. And he said, you people don't believe in Sufism and mysticism and tasawwuf. So I know this cousin of mine pretty well. So I said, look, just get to the point. What is it that you're trying to say? And give me an example of the Sufism that you want me to believe in. And he read a line of poetry in the Urdu language, which translates like this. Who knows when Allah blew His spirit into Adam, whether Allah Himself came into Adam or whether Adam went into Allah? And would you believe his own son, who's 11, was sitting there, he said, Dad, this sounds like nonsense. Wallahi. He said, Dad, he used another word, but I won't use it here. He said, this sounds like, it doesn't make sense to me, Dad. I said, is this a Sufism that you think is Islam? Meaning, you talk about Tawheed, but that's not Islam. This is Islam. Bid'ah and Kufr, it's something which is so normal amongst the people now. And I said, just take a moment to just contemplate on what you've said. The difference between Ahad and Ahmad is just what? The letter Meme. Ahad is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ahmad is the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he says that the difference between Ahad, Allah, and Ahmad, the Prophet, is just this Meme. That's it. Otherwise, they're both the same. Allah is a Prophet and the Prophet is Allah. A'udhu billah. This is the Sufism that you want us to practice and to be upon. The prophets were slaughtered for this Aqidah of Tawheed. The Quran mentions this. يَقْتُلُونَ النَّبِيِّينَ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ. The Quran mentions it. The prophets before Muhammad ﷺ were slain, they were slaughtered without justification. Why? يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ. O people, one Allah, one Ilah. Worship for one Ilah. And we are believing 1400 years later because of the bid'ah that has spread like wildfire amongst us, that we're confused whether the Prophet is Allah or Allah is a Prophet. Wallahi Azim, sometimes when you speak to a person who's truly a foolish individual, he's not a scholar or anything like this, but a truly foolish individual, you realize how corrupt the callers to the fire and the gates of the fire of hell are. How easy they manipulate these people into thinking that this is the version of Islam, this one. And then these people who are simple people, they just go for that hook, line and sinker. Don't think you're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I didn't know. You had the opportunity to research, you had the opportunity to look at something to the best of your ability. And by the way, this is fitrah. This is something which is inborn in every human. One Allah. It is you or I that decided to move away from that. So don't stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I have an excuse. I was ignorant. You were not ignorant of the fact that there's only one ilah. So the point I'm making is that bid'ah has become so widespread. It's not only in the mu'amalat, in the dealings that we have with each other, in the masail which are the masail of furu, where to put the hands in salah, or how to read the salah, whether we should stand up drinking water, sit down drinking water. No, it's gone well into our belief system, well into Aqidah. So much so that our bid'ah has attacked our Aqidah, so much so that we don't know anymore. As I said, whether Allah is the Prophet or the Prophet is Allah. This is the situation of the people. So the words of the Prophet ﷺ no doubt are true. Sadiq al-Masul. That the day will not be established up until. And then he'll be there and some of these people will be coming. Oh Muhammad ﷺ, you do not know what they invented after you. For those who don't know, very quickly, the necessary components of what a bid'ah is are three things. Yes. What's the first thing? For something to be a bid'ah, and I always say that these signs of the Day of Judgment are there so that we benefit from the true position also. You're only going to stay away from bid'ah if you know what it is. If someone wants to ask you, what's the definition of a bid'ah? Then the Rasul ﷺ has informed us of that. Let's have the definition from the Prophet ﷺ himself. Na'am ya habibi.
I don't know the definition from the Prophet ﷺ, but is it haram?
Of course, it's haram, no doubt. So if you're going to take anything from today's lesson, take this. Man atatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa rad. The Rasul ﷺ said that whoever invents something new into this religion of ours will have it rejected. Whoever invents something new into this deen of al-Islam, which is not from it, will have it rejected. Whoever invents something new into the religion, which is not from the religion, will have it rejected. Therefore, the necessary components or ingredients of bid'ah are based upon three things. Number one, ihdath. It must be something new. Number two, fi amrina hadha. It must be something new in the deen of Islam. This excludes the ridiculous argument, why do you travel on an aeroplane, why do you drive a car, why do you wear glasses? All of these are bid'ah. These are not bid'ah in the deen. We're talking about the deen here. Because this is the ultimate and the automatic response you get. Why do you drive a car for? That's a bid'ah. So the second necessary ingredient is a bid'ah in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third necessary ingredient is Adam Dalilu Shari. That means that there's no evidence for that thing, there's no evidence for that saying, for that action from the deen of Islam, meaning from Allah, His Rasul and the Sahaba. yes, I'll say, there's no evidence for that invention, for that new thing from the Quran and Sunnah. So for example, and this is an example that we can maybe all relate to, celebrating the birthday of the Prophet is a bid'ah. Does that make sense? So this is something that we should all have in our minds. Yes, yes. Although today's topic isn't about that, but because we're talking about bid'ah becoming widespread, celebrating the Prophet's birthday is not from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not from the Sunnah. It wasn't done by the Prophet and it wasn't done by the Sahaba. It's something which was new in the deen. Yet many of our people have fallen into this innovation. Like I said, the time has come where bid'ah is seen as something sunnah, normal. And those upon the sunnah are seen as something which is strange or something which is not normal. So there's a lot of material out there on this topic, and inshallah it'll be good to look at it. Likewise, from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is لا تقوم الساعة حتى يتباهى الناس في المساجد, that the day will not be established up until the people compete with each other in the beautification of the mosques, of the masajid. And then they are proud over it. Have we not seen this before our very eyes today? Certain things are a necessity. The dome is not a necessity. Millions of pounds may be spent on the domes. This is not from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And gold and glitter and so on and so forth. In fact, this is something that the people of the book used to do with their churches and synagogues. It's a beautification of that place to such an extent that everything is based upon ghulu, excessiveness. So not only are the windows and the paintings and so on and so forth all extremely rare, extremely excessive, extremely expensive, but the actual deen then becomes, the actual religion becomes based upon ghulu, excessiveness. And the greatest form of excessiveness that they had was they said, Isa is the son of Allah. لا تغلوا في دينكم يا أهل الكتاب لا تغلوا في دينكم. All people of the book, don't fall into this excessiveness. And the Rasul said upon his deathbed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا تجعلوا قبري عيدا. Don't be excessive in visiting my grave, a place which is you're going to come often and visit it frequently. The people before you were destroyed because of ghulu, being excessive. Don't make my grave a place of worship. Don't make my grave a place of worship. Why? Because of excessiveness or ghulu. Likewise, beautifying the masajid to such an extent that the essence of the purpose of the masjid is lost. وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَعْدُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ فَلَا تَعْدُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. In another place, that the masajid are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so don't worship anyone other than Allah within them. The essence and the purpose and the soul of the masjid was to call people to the worship of one ilah. But we have become far more interested in, and the committees of the masajid, meeting after meeting after meeting. And this is happening right before my eyes in a masjid in my city. So many meetings with general meetings, this meeting, that meeting. But yet the actual purpose of that masjid is dawah. There's no dawah committee. But there's a committee for how big the toilet should be, there's a committee for what brick should be used, and that should be used, and that should be used. So the essence of dawah is lost. And the masajid are just made as places of like museums. Places of vanity, places where people are going to come and say, how nice is this masjid? But yet, Allah Azza wa Jalla has informed us that the entire earth is a place of worship for the believers. The point here is that your prayer will not be more readily accepted or greater reward just because you've prayed in a masjid which has certain chandeliers or certain glitter or certain carpet or a certain air conditioning system. No. Allah Azza wa Jalla doesn't look at your bodies, but He rather looks at your souls and He looks at your hearts. So the masjid should be a symbol and a reflection of that. Amongst the sign of the day is that the masajid will be beautified. And then people will compete over it. We actually have competitions. Britain's greatest masjid, or whatever it is. And there may be a valid reason for people to enter that. Allah knows best, whatever their intentions are. I'm not here to talk about that, but the point here is that this is what we have turned the masajid into. My masjid has underfloor heating, that masjid doesn't. And some masajid ban the women from coming to the masjid. Women not allowed. Why? They say in their madhab that women are not allowed in the masjid. The very people that need da'wah, the very people that are going to nurture your children upon tawheed and sunnah, the women, you stop them coming to the masjid. So the purpose of the masjid and the community spirit behind that masjid becomes lost and void, and instead people begin to focus on the outer beauty of the place. And this indeed is from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment. Likewise, from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is Inna bayna yadi sa'a taslim al-khasa. That from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is that the salutation, the salam, will be given to people that you only recognize, just to specific people. Yet the Prophet ﷺ informed us, Atimu ta'am afshu salam. Invite each other to food, to sit with each other. Spread the salutation, spread the salam. So these signs are showing us that even on an individual basis, the sunnah will become lost upon the people. We have the groups of people, for example, falling into shirk, falling into bid'ah, but then on an individual basis, we talk about the deception. Now we see that he will only give salam to those that he knows. Meaning he will maybe walk past someone that he doesn't recognize and he won't give them the salam. Yet that's the right of the Muslim upon the Muslim, that he gives the salam. And this actually happened, according to some ulama, right in the era of the companions. A man entered upon a majlis, upon a sitting of companions, and he specified out Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he went and he gave him salam. And another companion from the audience, he said, no doubt the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was truthful when he said that from amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment is that the people will only give salutations to those that they recognize. They will give salam only to those that they recognize. And in one narration he says, give salam to those that you know and to those that you don't know. So it's once again another step on an individual basis further away from the sunnah. You see, brothers and sisters, when you add all of these signs together, no matter how minor me and you may think they are, the coloring of the beard and not giving the salam, but what does he actually lead us to? What conclusion does he actually lead us to? If you really take just one step back and analyze these signs, you'll realize that the nearer the people get to the Day of Judgment, the appointed term, the appointed hour, whether it's in society or on an individual basis, the sunnah will be lost. That's the real thing here. The sunnah was spread the salam. That's one thing. Gone. The sunnah was color the beard a certain color away from black. Gone. The sunnah was, and you'll see every single time, it's an erosion of the importance of the sunnah and following the sunnah. And when you add all of these things together, the sunnah gone there, the sunnah gone there, the sunnah gone there, the sunnah gone there, that's when the people turn away from being righteous to those that are upon sin and wickedness and wretchedness. May Allah save us from that. We will continue with this next week. I made a point of talking about bid'ah and its necessary ingredients, because this is something that benefits us every time we come across it. And for those of you that didn't know this today, then please really hone in on this and learn this, because it's something, inshallah, that will stand you in good stead when it comes to safeguarding your deen away from shirk and bid'ah, in whether it's aqidah or other than that. May Allah save us from that. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Any questions?
So the brother said, oh, go on, Uncle.
Yeah, as long as it's not black, uncle. As long as it's not black. Now.
My brother sent a question last week via social media, and the question was based on your statement that we should refer back to ulama. So he said, who are the English-speaking ulama? Who are the Arabic-speaking ulama? How do we access them, and why they don't speak about contemporary issues such as Yemen and the issue regarding what happened to the journalist in Turkey, and why did the ulama remain silent on such important issues?
So firstly, there's a common sense principle, and actually it's a fundamental principle of the deen itself. The one who knows is to be taken from instead, rather than the one who doesn't know. Just because, dear brother, dear sister, you don't know of the fact that the ulama speak about contemporary issues, and you're not in the know about that because you don't listen to them, you don't listen to their talks, or you don't follow what they write, and you're not aware of that, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The not knowing of something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. That's the first misconception that shaitan has put into your mind. May Allah guide you and me and us all. The ulama don't speak about certain issues. They do, actually. In fact, they speak regularly and extensively about them. And people go and seek fatwa from the ulama concerning contemporary issues. If you're not going to seek it from the ulama, who are you going to seek it from? The likes of yourself or myself? That's the first thing. And that actually answers the second part of the question. Who are the ulama? Those that other people of knowledge refer to. So, it's a duty for us to know who the ulama are through that process. Who do the tulabul ilm refer to? And the ulama are varying degrees. Those that are senior and those that are less than that. Those that are less than that, who is it that they refer to? Who is it that the people have accepted? Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and his ulama have accepted. So a scholar is one that other ulama have recommended, and other scholars speak of his fadl, speak of his station, speak of his ilm, speak of his taqwa, and speak of his knowledge. Walillahi alhamd. As for saying that you're going to choose your own scholar, because he, and in some cases she, may have spoken about something that the Sun newspaper might have written about, and you think this is a true scholar, subhanallah, they're answering the Sun newspaper, then this is your own warped and weak mentality. That's the only words that I can use. Because in your mind, the scholar is the one who knows about your individual down to the last thing of what you've done an hour ago. But the alim, the scholar, is the one who addresses the issues which are global. And this should be a lesson for you. Why should he know what happened on your street an hour ago? He's not obligated to know that, but yet he knows what the benefit of the Muslims is in, where the harm for the ummah is in. So the ulama are those that look at the issues which affects the ummah as a whole. And they also give fatwa when it comes to an individual basis also. And this is what Allah Azza wa Jalla says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. The scholar is not a person that will speak from his desires or that will go with the wind. The political wind seems to be blowing this way, so let me invite the people to a certain political party or a certain political manhaj, because this is where the people seem to be pushing towards. No. The scholar is free from this. The scholar is the one who refers back to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he is the one who is capable of making ijtihad. Where there's no clear text from the Quran and Sunnah, he gives a fatwa based upon the evidences that are extrapolated, that he has made istinbat of from the book and the Sunnah. The source is always the book and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Sahaba, the Salaf, the Tabi'in and the Atba Tabi'in, and those upon their way of this Ummah. So the scholars are those which are known. They are ma'ruf, they are zahirin al-haq, manifestly open upon the truth. Not those that claim a position, but yet nobody is with them. He claims khilafah for himself, but none of the ulama have said he's a khalifa. He claims to be a scholar, but none of the ulama have claimed for him that he is a scholar of Ahl Sunnah. They may have said he's a scholar of Ahlul Bid'ah, but then that's your choice whether you follow that person or not. Or he's a scholar of the Khawarij, that's your choice. But scholars recognize ulama. It's other ulama that recognize other ulama. And this is how the Salaf used to be. When Dhahabi wrote Sir Alam al-Nubala, and the scholars like Ibn Hajar, they put together the books of Asma Rijal. How is it that they define the status of that person? Based upon what that person said himself or by himself? No. Look at the biographies of the ulama. Based upon what someone's neighbor might have said about him? Not really, no. It's primarily based upon what other scholars who are a specialist in that field of jarh wa ta'dil, of knowing what's right and what's incorrect, of knowing whether that person was upon sunnah or bid'ah, of knowing whether that scholar was a person of shirk or tawheed, is what they say about him. So it's based upon recommendation. Our entire deen is based upon that. So why is it that we have to move away from that way today? When Bukhari collected the ahadith for his Al-Jami al-Sahih and the other scholars of hadith, this is how they sifted whether they should put the hadith in that book or not. That the people in that chain were they bona fide truthful people upon righteousness. They therefore looked at the recommendations and the findings of other specialist people in that field concerning that individual. And after great and thorough research, it's only then that they included certain ahadith in their books. Today is no different. Scholars recognize other ulama. And I always say the YouTube and this and that. English speaking scholars, but if you come across one, let me know. To my knowledge, we don't have any senior, major English speaking scholar. Not everyone who claims to be a scholar is a scholar. There are some English speaking people who have, mashallah, immense knowledge. And in their particular field on a particular matter, it could be, for example, to do with Islamic finance or what have you, or issues of divorce and marriage. They may be scholars in that particular thing. But I'm talking about scholars, broadly speaking, people that you can refer to for your Quran, Sunnah, your verdicts, for manhaj, for aqidah, for implementation of the aqidah. Then that is with the scholars who are known and ma'ruf. Shaykh Ibn Baz, Shaykh Uthaymeen, Shaykh Albani, and then Shaykh Fawzan, Shaykh Rabi, Shaykh Badiuddin, Shaykh Abdullah Nasr Rahmani in current times, Shaykh Irshadul Haq Al-Athri in Pakistan, and I'm sure the scholars in Somalia, which other ulama have recommended, likewise in Jordan and other countries, that people will know about, that other ulama have recommended. So every country like that may well have a group of their own scholars that the people refer to. May Allah preserve all of our ulama wherever they may be. And Allah knows best now.
Going back to that question, you know, there's a lot of people that ulama haven't given the tazkiyah or the approval to discuss a certain matter. What would you?
If a scholar is giving you tazkiyah, then you have to remember one thing: Balillahu yuzakki man yasha. That firstly, don't have ujub, don't have self-amazement. فَلَا تَزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Just because a scholar is giving you a recommendation, actually that should make you even more humble. Rather than having that pride and arrogance now, I have a recommendation. It doesn't work like that. That actually shows that maybe you're not fit for that recommendation. You might have been when the scholar gave it to you, but now that you're acting haughtily and you're acting with arrogance with that recommendation, the recommendation maybe it's not befitting for you. So that person doesn't go into a mode of self-amazement. Look at me. And just like that scholar will be dragged by the scruff of the neck and his face into the fire of hell, may Allah save us all from that. Ya Rab, I disseminated your deen to the people, and I taught the people Islam, and I done this all for your sake. Rather you're lying. You've done this so that people could say, look at how great knowledge, how great this man's knowledge was. So the knowledge will either be an evidence for you or it will be an evidence against you. Secondly, وَلِلَّهُ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ. Don't think that just because a scholar has given you a recommendation, that means now that you're a pure person who's purified himself. No. Rather, it is Allah that purifies the people. And Allah purifies whomsoever He wants. And we should never forget this. And learn from the sunnah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya muqallib al-qulub thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Whose heart, whose being was more pure from creation than Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet he is making dua continuously. O turner of the heart, keep my heart turned towards your guidance. He is fearful, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about his own heart. And has you or I that may have 1, 2, 3, 4 recommendations, 5 from scholars, and we become arrogant with that and we feel comfortable all of a sudden, then now I'm going to issue fatwa and I'm going to issue. So this is the other spectrum of that, where the people fall into ujub, self-amazement. May Allah save us from that. Very dangerous, dangerous, dangerous path to be upon. Allahu alam. Now, we'll, last question, inshallah.
There's 2 questions.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that. Yeah, about the salam, of course, there's adab to giving salam and so on and so forth. If you're reaching a group of people, then it's not necessary that the one who's coming should give salam rather than the one who is sitting. The young one should give it to the older one. I was speaking generally and broadly in the lesson. But as for the specifics of who has a right to give salam first and whether it's an obligation or not, then that's a different matter altogether. Allahu alam. Look on Google. Oh, sorry. This is a message from somebody else. Now, we'll finish it here today. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless you all.